Hello everyone and welcome back to Spoiler Warning featuring myself, Tom Colohue. I want to say a big hello to everyone who's already joined us. We will be going over the following headlines today. We are starting by discussing the hiring freeze that was rumoured and very clearly proven false over the last few months in the WWE. We're going to talk about the hirings of Logan Paul, or the rehiring I should say, the supposed hiring of AOP, the hiring of Nia Jax, the supposed hiring of Kairi Sane, and the supposed incoming hiring of Jade Cargill. We're going to talk about the report that $50 to $100 million are being cut from WWE budgets. We're going to talk about CM Punk and his use of the media to not only detail his intentions but protect him from further criticism. We're going to talk about the plans for Jade Cargill when she does possibly debut on WWE, either on main roster or on NXT, and how that does not in any way impact other people currently in AEW. One in particular you may be happy to hear is Mercedes Money. We're going to talk about William Regal and his role at the moment in WWE, as well as the possibility of NXT Europe being affected by incoming cuts to WWE production. There are rumours that Australia has an upcoming pay-per-view, and we're going to talk about the WWE's plans for Wembley and China's plans for the WWE product. Then we're going to talk a little bit about a discussion point that Squid has raised, Squid a regular here, in the comments, about how we're doing spoiler warning and whether or not the chat is overtaking the news element, and whether I should maybe split the shows a little bit and do the Q&As like I've done previously in news videos separately, or potentially take these videos, download them and cut them into news videos like I've done previously. There's a little bit on LA Knight and intentions for him and championships before we then talk the preview of tonight's Monday Night Raw per request by Daniela. I want to say a huge hi to everyone. There is plenty of people already in the chat. A spirited debate before I even went live, and I appreciate all of you for that. Anyone who did go too far, I've spoken to. But good to see we can have quite engaging and interesting chats even without me necessarily being there. It's always lovely to see. So I want to say a huge hello to everyone. Spider Boss says hello Tom. Wrestling Media claim Jade Cargill is in the Performance Center this week. Bailey says hello Tom. Spider Boss doesn't get the gimmick of Shotzi. It's like a tall Nikki Cross if she had an entirely different face and personality. Mark says, hey, hope you had a good weekend. Watching the background, will pop in when I can. We do love a lurker. Thank you very much, Mark. The Dude says, evening, Tom and chat. Welcome, The Dude. Ross says, Ross is talking about Zayn's comments on Ricochet, which I also do not agree with, and I've made that clear. Carmelina says, who do you think is going to win against Drew McIntyre and Jey Uso? We'll talk about that in the preview, the end of the show. Hello, Wiggly. CM Punk is not teasing a WWE return. You are reading a completely different thing to anything else. Carmelina says, hi, Tom. Hello, Carmelina. Juana Roscoe says, hey Tom, looks like Mercedes Money is in AEW. I have reported she will be signing. Matthew Johnson says, evening Tom and chat, hope everyone is well. Doing well, thank you. Leon says, hi Tom, hope you're doing well. Doing very well, thank you. Welcome, Leon. FDR says, hello, hello, and hello. What's new with Colohue? Been a while since I've joined your live sessions. Well, welcome, mate. I keep trying to come up with the trivia things, as I know you quite enjoy them. I do apologise. I've just been a little bit swamped recently. I promise you that is something I'm going to be working on going forwards. Let's just say I have plans, and they're good plans, I just need to do them. Doing well, thank you, Eric. Welcome to the show. Daniel Berry says, hey, squids. Literally dropping a squid in the chat. Lovely. Zane says, will you be happy if Jade Cargill signs for WWE? That is one of my discussion topics. Spider-Boss says, did Rhea Ripley have time off this weekend? Mention this because the women's match for live events this past weekend was Becky versus Tiffany. Yeah, she was essentially selling the Nia Jax injury. More on that shortly. Razar says, hello, Tom. Ready for all the news. Thanks for keeping us updated. You are very welcome, Razar. Thank you for joining us. And Wiggly says, not sure if you said hi to me already as I'm doing several things at once, but hello. Hello. Bailey says, if the WWE debuts Jade Cargill, does that force a name change for Cora Jade? Difficult to imagine the generation of Jade if there is a bigger such name on the main roster. Definitely worth considering, and maybe something that they do need to change. Pardon me. Maybe the generation of Cora, or we may start with Jade Cargill versus Cora Jade. They are, thank you, Adam. Dad says, all right, Tom. Hello, Dad. Eric says, good evening, Tom Colohue. Good evening, Eric. Squid says, kind of hoping they can find a way to use Jade's entrance music if she goes to WWE. The intention in general is always exactly the same. Now, since Cody Rhodes came in, the concept for any AEW wrestler is to bring them in exactly as they were. Dark Society has changed the name to Rob and Dave LPs. So say, Tom, change my channel because me and my friend have been doing a Let's Play. Used to be known as Dark Society. Welcome. Martin says, hey, Tom, long time no see, good sir. Any WWE wrestlers, male and female, you've been enjoying lately? Solo Sikoa is definitely becoming one of my favourites. I'm really enjoying his work right now, and he sticks out for me. Glad you enjoyed it, Daniela. Zane says, I can't wait for Thunder Rosa to return to wrestle in AEW. Looks like it'll be relatively soon. Daz is looking forward to the news. Richard says, hi, Tom and all. Hope everyone is doing good. Honestly think Jade is going to NXT to get some more training. JJ says, hey, Tom, will Becky be pulling double duty like being on Raw and NXT with the championship? More on that soon. Daniela says, something else. Marcel says, hi, Tom and chat. How are you doing? Doing well, thank you, Marcel. So, we have 67 viewers and 26 likes. If you're able to, please remember to hit that thumbs up. It does go a long way to ensuring the growth of this channel. Jonathan Rodriguez says, the problem with Jade's theme is it's AEW property, then they may not be able to take that one. Razar says, why does WWE let certain people keep their CFO theme but change others? Because the CFO themes are licensed, and when the license expires, they either pay for a new one or they pay for the old one, and they typically go for a cheaper new one. Spider-Boss says, a happy birthday to my home country, Chile. CM says, do you know which brand Jade is going to? More on that shortly. So let's start by talking about this proposed hiring freeze that wasn't. So there were prolonged rumours of a hiring freeze in the WWE that apparently started in January. It's particularly coming from Raj Giri of Wrestling Inc. talking about a hiring freeze and how limited WWE was in bringing wrestlers in post-January. Shortly afterwards, there was the takeover by Vince McMahon. I don't want to say hostile takeover, so I'm not going to, but I'm just going to mention the possibility of a hostile takeover and leave it drifting, even though I don't believe there was a hostile takeover. This caused some issues and some changes to the WWE structure around WrestleMania time, but it did not impact a hiring freeze. Logan Paul signed a new contract at that time for some quite considerable money, and he was not the only one. There are now rumours out there that AOP, the Authors of Pain, have been signed for a long time to the WWE. Nia Jax, who appeared at the Royal Rumble in January and signed an agreement to have more matches there, has now also reappeared in the WWE, suggesting that there very much is not a hiring freeze going on. But it goes further than that. There are rumours of Kairi Sane about to return to the WWE, which I can confirm there is an intention there, largely held by William Regal. The latest name, of course, is Jade Cargill. This, of course, does mean that any potential hiring freeze is complete inaccuracy. There is no hiring freeze in the WWE, as I've been reporting since the moment it was announced. Now, there are talks of massive cuts to the WWE, particularly via Dave Meltzer, $50 to $100 million of cuts. So you can't be any more specific than 50 to 100 million. I think that's a kind of large range and a large pot of potential. 50 to 100 million dollars. Essentially, there is a $50 million split there. Meanwhile, they are bringing in people. They are talking about bringing in Jade Cargill, lots of rumours of that. There was lots of rumours of Kairi Sane. Nia Jax has now reappeared, and that is actually happening. Actually already happened, so there's no potential there. That has happened. It makes me question a whole lot of the things coming out at the moment. There is no hiring freeze in the WWE. The WWE are actively hiring people. This does raise massive questions about the possibility of incoming cuts, particularly when you consider that, yes, a lot of people were let go from backstage in WWE, but that intention was for them to merge the WWE and UFC back office team into one cohesive unit. That one cohesive unit, unfortunately, has meant that people have lost their jobs. I'm not particularly happy about that. I think they're going to be overloading a lot of people. But when it comes to, for example, event planners and show bookers, it is best served with the same people who already have experience doing it on the other side. It raises a lot of questions, which I'll be trying to answer as we go through. But what I will say is I'm not expecting $50 to $100 million of savings. The WWE has already significantly increased the amount of revenue coming in. We will be talking more about that shortly when we talk about Australia, Wembley in the UK, and of course, China. Hector says, afternoon Tom, if Jade Cargill does come to WWE and they want to change Cora Jade's name, they could always go with her indie name, Elena Black. And Noob says, hello Tom, how are you doing today? Doing well, thank you Noob. Zane says, will Charlotte be in the title picture anytime soon? Possibly yes, but not for long. I expect she'll be going up against Io Sky, but I don't think she'll be winning. 23 Fresh says, Batista returning to the WWE. He may make an appearance, but he is not planning to wrestle. Martin says, Tom, do you think there are some news that have been spread out there to paint a bad picture for the WWE? Yes, and I think that's been happening for about a decade. Spider-Boss says, what a clickbait when PWInsider stated WWE signed Carlito. Yep, nothing as of yet. Jonathan Rodriguez says, I wonder what happened with Jay White in his negotiations. To my knowledge, it was that Jay White didn't feel particularly wanted by the WWE. I don't think the push was right for him. Callie says, evening Tom, hope you're well. Doing well, thank you Callie, welcome to the show. KJ says, what's up Tom? Welcome KJ. Sean says, hello Tom, how's your Monday going? Going very well, thank you. And no KJ, no mention of CM Punk is going to be happening. KJ says 50 to 100 million in cuts is a lot of wrestlers. Yes, it is. In fact, to be blunt, if you want $100 million of cuts all on the main roster, that's going to be basically half of the roster, which ain't going to happen. Spider-Boss says, I get she wants to put over the women, but it's sad to see Bayley losing every week. Bayley is choosing this, and honestly, I really respect her for the amount of work she's doing to build other people. Richard says, Tom, any word on who is going to end Seth's title reign? The suggestion seems to be Damian Priest. CM says, do you have any idea of who will be released? I'm not going to speculate, no, on who may or may not be released. At this point in time, honestly, I don't know if people will be released, so we'll wait and see what happens. As I say, they are actively trying to avoid it. James says, say Tom, hope all my comments on your YouTube short helps with the algorithm. It absolutely does, James, and I very much appreciate it. I try to respond to as many of them as I possibly can to make sure that you understand that I really do appreciate it. There's a couple of people who do comment as much as possible. Khalid, for example, just says, hi, see you later, which is fantastic. That really does help the algorithm, because any engagement on any YouTube video will mean that it finds extra viewers. If you can find a group of people or a community who will watch, like and comment on your shorts and your videos will fly as a result. Leon says, PWInsider reports Matt Riddle has been expected back at tonight's Raw, but he's not been seen backstage. It is still early, and to be fair, there has been plenty of people reporting that we're not going to be seeing him for a while, including, as I believe, him. Then says, do you think Jey Uso could be the one to beat Gunter for the IC title? Personally, no, not at this point. Barry says, if they're going to Australia, the Melbourne Cricket Ground with its 120,000 capacity would be great for a big wrestling event. They'd likely go a little bit smaller because they don't think they're going to break international records in doing so. Aureus here says, Monday afternoon, you know what that means. Welcome back. Nice to see you. Mez015 says, Tom, if Liv Morgan returns at the Rumble or right near the Rumble by, let's say, January, what number on a scale of 1 to 10 would you say she wins? At the moment, given storylines in play, she's not too credible a contender. I'd give her a 2. Hi, Ori. Spider-Boss says, when Rhea Ripley gets an RKO from Randy Orton, fans will go crazy. Not a guarantee. Nas says, say, Tom, hello, Nas. Razar says, got any early Rumble predictions? Mine is Cody and Becky winning. Not at this point in time, though I'm going to keep an eye on Bayley for the women's side. Hector says, Tom, according to BWE, there's a plan for Solo Sikoa versus John Cena at either the Rumble or Mania. What a win that could be for Solo. I've already commented, as I believe before BWE, I mentioned that I would really like to see that match in Saudi Arabia. Adam says, anything on Johnny Gargano? Nope. 23 Fresh says, do you see Saray coming back to the WWE down the road? Personally, no, but I'd like to see that. I'd like to see myself be wrong on that one. Daniela says, hopefully we get Cody versus Roman at WrestleMania 14. Cody finishes a story. Richard says, will Becky be NXT champion for long? Couldn't tell you. I'd imagine it'll be similar to Dominic Mysterio's championship reign. Next up, we're going to be talking about CM Punk and his use of the media. We currently have 74 viewers and only the 39 likes. If you're able to, please remember to hit that thumbs up. And immediate question, I have to say, question for all of you. When it comes to CM Punk, which wrestling media outlet is reporting the most favourable news stories about CM Punk? Give me an answer in the chat. Let me know who you've seen reporting news about CM Punk the most favourably. So let's jump into it. CM Punk may or may not be using certain media outlets to project a clear image of who and what he is and who and what he is doing. Most recently, a report came out from House of Wrestling stating that CM Punk has no intention of engaging in a lawsuit against AEW and essentially plans to just move on with his life. House of Wrestling also reported about CM Punk being left at the airport and unable to find his way to the arena at Wembley without assistance. House of Wrestling, in fact, is reporting many things about CM Punk, all of which seem to lean favourably towards CM Punk. Now, what this suggests is not necessarily any issue with the reporting by Nick Houseman. What I would say is that it's very clear he has a source, and that source is CM Punk. With this in mind, we have to raise the question about a certain level of credibility, because we have to ask, is it reasonable to be reporting as sources on CM Punk if your source is in fact CM Punk? Can you not just interview the guy and be open about that? It is definitely creating a more favourable impression than any other area, and it is really raising questions about credibility for anything further. There is a clear and obvious bias that I have serious questions about. CM Punk is essentially using certain members of wrestling media to protect himself, to change the narrative about himself, and to create an altogether new narrative where he is a very different impact on the AEW stage. If a different wrestler was doing so, let's say an individual is constantly reporting information from the camp of Charlotte Flair, and it is constantly reporting favourable information about Charlotte Flair, would they get away with it? I feel that's a question that we all have to answer ourselves, but I do think it's a question worth asking. Then says, will we ever see RK Bros attack team in the future? That depends entirely on whether Randy Orton is cleared. Sean said, this is from PWInsider. Jade Cargill contract with AEW has expired. She's expected at the Performance Center this week. More on Jade Cargill in just a moment. Spider-Boss says it would surprise me if Bayley won the Women's Rumble next year, especially considering Bayley's status since October of 2002. Ez says, when asked about favourability, House of Wrestling. Daniela says, Cody hasn't really got a storyline right now. That's true, but he will have soon. Ori says, there are long-term plans for The Rock, or was Friday a one-off? Friday was a one-off that may eventually turn into long-term plans, but at the moment it is not. Danny Potts says, just gave you my thumb, thank you kindly. We're on 43 likes, 7 more will get us up to 50, but just 2 more get us up to 45. So if you can thumb me, I'll be absolutely grateful for it. Sean Ireland says House, as in House of Wrestling. Leon suggests Fightful. The dude says House of Wrestling most likely. Richard Smith says Fightful and House. Nuke says Wrestling Observer, which ain't true, or House of Wrestling. Jonathan Rodriguez saying House. Brad Becker saying House of Wrestling for sure. Daz also says Meltzer, but I imagine that's a joke. Marcel says Fightful. C-Max says Tom Colohue, which definitely isn't true. And Ross Menzies says House. Now, this is very telling because House of Wrestling pretty much just recently started, and certainly they're getting a lot of column inches, but is this the way that you would go about it? If you had access, thank you very much FDR for renewing your membership as a channel supporter for an 11th month, very much appreciate it. Question for all of you, if you had access to a direct source such as CM Punk and they were telling you what to report, would you report it? Squid says, imagine when Rhea beats Nia and says, no one in WWE is as strong as me. Here a storm is coming. Hear the guitar riff from Jade's theme. I would pop hard. Eric says, I think Becky retains in the rematch at No Mercy to move Tiffany up, then lose it to Tia Hale at Halloween Havoc. KJ says, hey Tom, Zero News was right. We finally got the Rock Austin stare down that he promised at the Rumble. Yep, just the wrong Austin. Leon says, sucks to see Punk's career end, but at least he had the perfect retirement match with Samoa Joe. It was quite fun. Spider-Boss says, Wrestling Observer is clearly anti-CM Punk. Fightful hasn't said much about CM Punk. Trekkipedia says, what's up, Tom and everyone? Hope everyone is doing well, and don't forget to like the stream, share and subscribe, please. Thank you, Trekkipedia, and please do remember to do so. Every new subscriber gets a notification every time we go live, and you do not want to miss out on some of the reports that we've been sharing recently. Richard says, CM Punk needs to step away from pro wrestling altogether and stay with the indies. He hates being controlled. Jonathan says, I personally like to see Punk back in WWE. Now that's personally. If people backstage would hate that, then I understand. Razar says, I thought people aren't supposed to report single-sourced material. So, that is... The general rule for journalism is double-source everything to protect yourself. However, not everyone lives by that rule. It's not hard and fast. It's not the law. It is a private company. KJ says, I don't think WWE can use Hades' theme as it was made by AEW, but I don't know who made it. Cody's song wasn't made by AEW, it was made by Downstate years before AEW. Adam says, I just look at certain wrestling news, so I don't know, but would say Meltzer. LF says, hi Tom, any hints on who could be Roman's opponent at the Saudi PLE? I would suggest, based on current storylines, AJ Styles may be the one to take that spot. I previously reported that the situation with AJ Styles and Paul Heyman has dramatically improved and will potentially be used as part of the storyline, suggesting that AJ Styles versus Roman Reigns is rapidly incoming. Trekkipedia says, it's like if it was Matt Cardona, would it be noticed that much? Fair. Brad says, House of Wrestling is as creditable as Meltzer is with the Young Bucks. Zane says, Vince is still completely in charge. You have Nick Khan making the rounds talking about budget cuts. How do you think the roster feels seeing over 100 employees fired? You don't think they are next? Vince McMahon is not completely in charge. Ari Emanuel is completely in charge. Hector says, Tom, I don't know if we've ever talked about this. Have you ever watched any of the Deadlock videos of their retro reviews? Nope. KJ says, thumb me like Solo. Thumb me like Solo. Give me the thumb. Right here. Right here. Thumb me like Solo. That's going to be a meme. We have just hit 50 likes. But please, if you haven't already, we're at 88 viewers. Thumb me like Solo Sikoa. Lots of thumbs from Callie and Squid as well. Vegeta says, hi Tom. Hello Vegeta. I actually hurt myself thumbing myself so hard. I get that our spike hurts now. Richard says, Tom, has Trish Stratus' return come to an end with WWE? She put on a classic with Becky. Yes, she did. I very much enjoyed it. They are trying to tempt her to continue. I think she'll take a break and come back when she's ready. FDR says, almost reaching a full year now, supporting for 11 months, one more, and get the 1 year token. There is no token, but I appreciate you. Eric says, I don't know who's credible. That's my thoughts on it. I appreciate that. I think that's a good concept to just question everything. That includes me, just to be clear. Question everything. Everything. Danielle doesn't care about Punk. Vegeta says, can I say Jade is confirmed now? Nope. John Gillis says, when publishing a story as a wrestling journalist, how much info do you need before posting it? That comes down to your judgment, the judgment of your management team, and of course, the judgment of the sources in question. If you get a piece of information from one person without verifying that source and you publish it, well then that's a choice that you made. Brad says, I would be honest and say this comes directly from CM Punk or whatever source was. Sometimes you should just say who your source is. Spider-Boss says Brett could return to WWE. Why not CM Punk? Everyone could. Just don't think they're going to. Ross says, I wouldn't report unless the intention is purely for short-term gain, which has no long-term benefits. Two sources are always more viable. Absolutely correct. Ryan says, Tom, it's happening. WWE coming back to Australia. Got any sneaky news about it for us? Please. A little bit incoming, Ryan. A little bit further down the line. Not too long, I promise. Dylan says, I wish Rhea tied me up and tickled me. Why would you say that? That is weird. Weird stuff. Ken says, Jade Cargill Performance Center for at least a year. She isn't good at all. Looks, she's got everything. Potential is unreal. Have to make it all come together. Absolutely no need to rush this at all. Martin says, have you covered the Punk and Survivor Series stuff? Presume people are guessing on his 2-month comments. Yes, indeed they are. CM Punk is certainly getting people talking. Also, 2 months. Would that not be the length of a 3-month no-compete clause? Trekkipedia says, Tom, how do you think Jade will debut? Haven't even sat here and said she's debuting yet. Squid enjoyed the fun me like Solo comment. Marcel says, AJ Styles and John Cena versus Solo and Jimmy will happen at Fastlane or SmackDown. Seems like it's going to be a Fastlane incoming. Ross has thumbed me as well. Daniela says, talking of Solo, why does he always have a bandage on his right hand where he does the spike? He always has it. Because if you just spike someone without protection, your thumb's going to break and so likely is your wrist. C-Max says, Tom, Have you seen the reel showing Punk poking himself in the head under the announcer's table, all in to draw blood? I have not, but that didn't really surprise anyone who was there. Spider-Boss says, Cena facing the bloodline since 2002. It's like Cena can't escape the Samoans. They don't like him. They don't like him. Bailey says, using two sources is journalism, using one source is gossip. Fair. Adam says, are there any plans for Bronson Reed? There are rough plans. They're not 100% on how to use him at the moment. They're trying to create opportunities for him, but it's difficult for them to be able to guarantee anything for anyone at the moment. They're trying to give him sort of pushes along the way, but they can't make sure he's always being pushed. They can't do that with anyone. Martin says, I thought there wasn't a no-complete as fired with cause, so all non-competes don't count. I'm just saying that could be what he's suggesting in his comments. I'm not sat here saying he is doing that because I don't know in any way, shape or form. To my knowledge, all clauses are cancelled when you are fired. So I think he's just stirring the pot. But I think he's also being suggestive for a reason. Callie says, looks like there'll be a few newbies and returning faces at the Rumble then. I mean, maybe. It's a Royal Rumble. That's usually how it goes. Leon says, since Punk has gone, has the real World Championship been scrapped? Yeah, he took it with him. Daniela says, Tommaso Ciampa deserves good storylines. What was him talking to Adam Pearce last week in Pearce's office about? It was about a match that he wants to have, and that's kind of all I can say at this point in time, because I don't know anything else. Jade Cargill is expected to sign with the WWE. Creative have been pitching some concepts to her, and there's some pretty good concepts with some pretty big names. A feud between her and Becky Lynch in NXT has been mooted, with Jade Cargill being the one to dethrone Becky Lynch. That's a pretty big spot to take. There is also talk of a feud leading into the Royal Rumble between Jade Cargill and Charlotte Flair. There are no plans to keep Jade Cargill in the background. Once signed, they are intending to use her pretty much immediately. She has not signed any deal yet, though her contract is now confirmed as being expired from AEW. She leaves as a huge positive, and AEW were very happy to work with her. To my knowledge, there were no real plans for her in AEW as part of the women's division. It was all a case of moving on at this point. They were trying to convince her to sign a new deal, with the intention being a match with Mercedes Money. However, they were not able to promise that in time due to the injury to Mercedes. That is not a guarantee that she would have agreed to it anyway, so there are plenty of questions about what she would have actually done. Jade Cargill has moved on, and it does mean that the WWE have snapped that up immediately. Yes, the money is good. It is not top level for the women's division, but it is main roster level for the women's division. The intention seems to be at most about a year in NXT. They are going to have her working in the Performance Center for a little while to get her bearings, but there is also talk of a potential feud against Charlotte Flair, which of course, as I mentioned leading into the Royal Rumble, would mean very little time in NXT at all. They are not signed as of yet, and as such they are pitching a number of different storylines to try and convince her to do so. Personally, I think Charlotte Flair might be the one. Just as a quick note though, there are many questions that have been asked me as to how this will impact Mercedes Money. It will have no impact whatsoever on Mercedes Money. She is still expected to sign with AEW and wrestle against Saraya. That is one of the storylines that has been mentioned to her, but that would mean that she would have to be cleared first, and at current, she is not cleared to wrestle. No idea, I don't get the name that WWE will use in Australia. Vapecast says, hi Tom, hello. The other Mike says, I had no idea Rhea was from Australia. I believe so, yes. Ken says, Britt Baker and Chris Statlander had a tremendous last few minutes of the match in the main event. Britt had everyone convinced she had the title, thought it was a great match and great finish. It's good to see some actual opportunity heading their way. Spider-Boss says, since she doesn't have many credible opponents on Raw, I would love to see Jade Cargill being the one who defeats Rhea Ripley. Becky Lynch still seems the most likely to defeat Rhea Ripley. At the very least, she is planned to face Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania. After that, if Rhea Ripley retains the championship, we could certainly look at Jade Cargill then. Mine says, totally agree on starting NXT to learn the WWE way. Vijit says, her versus Becky would be fire. And Richard said, the injury to Mercedes must have been really bad. It was, and it's still taking a while to heal. It's taking a little longer than expected, but these things happen, unfortunately. Trekkipedi says, I wouldn't mind her in NXT, this being Jade Cargill. No one starts off perfect and everyone trains every day. No one is perfect, so Jade in NXT sounds good to me. We are currently on 57 likes. 3 more will get us to 60. Can you thumb me harder? Next up, a look at what William Regal is doing in the background at the moment. So we spoke at the beginning of the show about a hiring freeze that didn't happen. Let's talk about William Regal, because his role at the moment is largely about the recruitment, particularly for NXT, and a little bit about the creative for NXT. He's already started bringing together people for NXT Europe, signing contracts that will activate the moment that NXT Europe goes live. Kairi Sane has not yet signed, but she is someone that was being brought in by William Regal. William Regal is looking for a number of different ways and a number of different talent to flesh out NXT Europe. There is, in addition to that though, an additional question about NXT Europe. You see, planning is ongoing for NXT Europe, but funding has been slow to be reached, which means that it's been very difficult to get people to sign to contracts which are not particularly high money. This also, of course, means that you have companies like AEW and Impact offering more money than the WWE for the concept of NXT Europe. Now, if William Regal was able to prove, and if NXT Europe was able to prove that there is a huge demand for wrestling in Europe, certainly that would go a long way to ensuring that NXT Europe does not go by the wayside. If they're looking for cuts, NXT Europe is somewhere I would be keeping an eye on, just for the sake of trying to make sure it doesn't go bye-bye. William Regal, Triple H are fighting to keep it. Overall, the contracts on offer are low, but the contracts on offer are not necessarily enough to convince people to sign up. NXT Europe is taking longer than expected because they've not been able to fill out a roster or get guarantees from major bookings in Europe as of yet. Daniela says, NXT Women's Breakout Tournament was announced as coming soon on NXT last week. What NXT Women's Superstars stand out to be in it and win? How about Jade Cargill? How about she debuts in the tournament, wins it, and then beats Becky Lynch? That'd be fun. Squid is double thumbing me. Who has 2 thumbs and gives them to Tom Colohue? That guy. Will says, do you know how the WWE women's locker room feels about Jade? I've only got rumours and murmurs and, to be blunt, gossip about this, but as far as I can tell, people are quite excited. Daniela says, smash the like button if you haven't already done so. Big up chat and Tom. Eric says, I think her fame is too big for staying in NXT for long. I don't expect her to stay in NXT for too long. Razar says, excited to see Jade if she goes to WWE. She'd be the first AEW original to jump to WWE since Cody was originally started in WWE before. And King Other says, if Jade's with WWE, do you want to see Bianca versus Jade at WrestleMania? Not yet, though I'm sure that match will come around eventually. Dad says, who do you think will dethrone Dom Tom? Not sure. I'm really not. There's a few good options. I do feel, obviously, there's champions already in place that could take it, but I'm honestly not sure. Mine says, I'm only saying it... Gotcha, okay. Peter Robert, welcome, says, hey Tom, who will Roman Reigns face at WrestleMania 40? Will he retain his undisputed WWE Universal Championship? I can't guarantee as regards retaining the championship. There is obviously a lot of talk about Cody Rhodes. Personally, I'd rather see Solo Sikoa take the spot. Trekkipedi says, why do some people act like NXT is a demotion? I learn new stuff at my job just about every day. I know it's part of my career, so nothing wrong with NXT. I agree. Certainly Becky Lynch hasn't been demoted. Spider-Verse says, I think we could see Mercedes money on AEW after Grand Slam. Mercedes just appearing on Dynamite on a segment with Saraya would be fun. Eddie says, you have anything on Jacob Fatu if he goes to WWE? Nope, not a thing. Daniela says, when do you think Bianca returns, Tom? Little while. She's currently considering some reality TV, as she recently was quoted on, so that could be interesting. But what I will say is she's most likely to return once the faction is in place between Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits. They're only really now firming up the heel turn, so there's a little longer to go yet, but that's what I expect. Devil says, is Dolph Ziggler injured or do they not have any plans for him? They don't have any plans for him. FDR says, I'd figure Dragon Lee might be the one to dethrone Dom Dom. Could be cool. Hector says, if Ari Emanuel not being a fan of the Saudi deal, where would you like to see WWE sign a long-term deal with once the Saudi deal concludes? Difficult to say. He's not a fan of the Saudi deal, but certainly does bring in a lot of money. And we'll have to wait and see on that one, because if they're going to cut costs, You can't really afford to lose a Saudi deal. Trekkipedia says AJ Styles even said he wants to go to NXT to start, so I consider that a huge compliment. Wanted, not once. Yeah, absolutely. AJ Styles is one of those who has worked in NXT, and a lot of people are doing a lot of favours there for it. Juan says, hey Tom, according to Nick Hausman, Punk is not looking to sue AEW. Is it reliable? His source seems to be, on the impression that I'm getting, CM Punk. So I'd say it's reliable in that regard. I'd question the reliability beyond CM Punk, but we are where we are. Sean says, imagine Jade Cargill in the new group with Street Profits and Lashley. And Spider-Boss said, I'd love to see Mustafa Ali beating Dom Mysterio. I think he needs to win the title. Ken says, do you think Deonna Purrazzo will return to WWE when her contract ends, at the end of the year? I certainly think she could. And I think she'd be a much bigger deal now than when she left. But I don't necessarily think she'll be used in the way anywhere close to how she has been in Impact. Martin says, do you think the WWE will try to get Aussie talent like the Iconics for the Australia show? If they have an Australia show, yes. Marcel says, I have 2 accounts on YouTube and I like twice. Appreciate that, Marcel. Simac says, hey Tom, have you heard anything about Batista returning? Nope. Eric says, with Santos challenging Ray for the US title, do you see a turn from him or the whole LWO against Ray? I see him turning and the LWO following him personally, and that for me is a good way to get a bit more heat on them just as a group overall. Daniela says, when will Odyssey Jones debut on Raw? I don't think he will. I genuinely don't think he will. Let's talk about the rumours then of a show in Australia and other countries that may benefit from this deal. Now, as I've explained before, the WWE essentially go out to a number of different countries and open the bidding. So countries are able to say, we will offer you this stadium and this much money in order to come to our show. The idea is that bringing in the WWE to a country like Australia will be a huge boost to the economy in that area, as has been proven at times. For example, AEW did good numbers for London, but certainly not good enough numbers that London were willing to pay them. Now, there is a deal coming for Australia. I spoke about this before. I didn't have individual details, and in many ways, to be blunt, I still don't. But there is a show coming for Australia that we should hear announced shortly. It is likely to be early next year that the show actually goes live. I expect it to be around the time of Backlash, personally. It could also be fit between February with Elimination Chamber and WrestleMania, but early next year is what I've personally heard. Now, beyond that, I can't say the particular names are going to be heavily featured, though you know you're going to get a big moment for Rhea Ripley, that's guaranteed, and others such as Dakota Kai, who at least are nearby. When it comes to the Australia show, though, the WWE are getting a pretty big cut. The actual amount of money will go a long way to ensuring that they are not having to fire wrestlers. There are other deals currently being put together. There is supposedly talk from the City of London and the council and the government there, particularly the mayoral office, that WWE will be invited to come to Wembley with, again, a pretty considerable amount of money and the stadium for free in order to make that happen. The WWE are very interested. The WWE kept track of what happened with AEW, and to be entirely blunt, the WWE believe that they can sell more tickets than AEW and essentially blow that record out of the water. This, of course, would be a major earner for them, but it would also be, in addition, potentially a major earner for London as well. There were a hell of a lot of people around Wembley Way for that show, I tell you that. And they came from multiple shows because wrestling in general went to London for that weekend. Another country still interested and still in the bidding is China. I've mentioned it before. The WWE and China are looking to make a deal whereby China pay a considerable amount of money and offer a very, very big fancy new stadium for the WWE. Nothing has been finalised as of yet, but I do expect to hear more about that in the coming weeks, particularly with what we're currently now hearing about releases impending. Adam says, hey Tom, who do you expect to sign from... Okay. This is a completely open question. I don't know who he's choosing to sign and whose contracts are up. Spider-Boss says, I think Jade Cargill doesn't need to go to NXT. I think she could go to the main roster, especially for a match with Charlotte Flair. Spider-Boss says, more WWE pay-per-views for the UK and Puerto Rico. Those crowds are loud. Alyssa says, why do we see Dominic versus Cody Rhodes Can get him out Judgment Day. Cody Rhodes is feuding with the Judgment Day because the Judgment Day are a pretty high up level talent right now, and it does keep Cody in the public eye as an equally high level talent. It's not always about Cody Rhodes. Hi Moxie, how you doing, mate? Sean says Raw's going to have to step up the next 2 weeks since they'll be competing with 2 Monday Night Football games. Yes, they will. So I do have a question for people incoming. Squid has raised this point in the comments of some of my shorts about spoiler warning potentially being difficult to actually catch up on the news nice and easily because sometimes the chat just gets going. Now I like it when the chat just gets going. The chat getting going boosts the algorithm and guarantees me more viewers. So I don't want to do anything that will disturb that. I want to increase the discourse. I want to increase the debate. I want to keep the chat going. So there is talk of a number of different opportunities. Now Squid has suggested channel markers. So you basically have time markers. So you can go click on the time and it'll take you directly to the piece of news. Nice and easy if you're not particularly interested in rewatching the chat. I personally am leaning towards going in another direction, whereby I take this news, which I've mentioned it before, it's just that I am limited for time, so I'm trying my best. I take this news, I take most of the big hitters, I record them into either shorts or full-length videos over the coming days, and I upload them. I could also download spoiler warning and just cut out the middleman and just use the actual information and the news to put that out there. Let me know what you guys would prefer. The timestamps, the cut up version of spoiler warning, or separately recorded videos and shorts detailing what's happened. Dane says, I'd love to see WWE or AEW do a show at Old Trafford. Seeing I'm a Man United fan, you need to talk to the mayor, the Metro Mayor of Manchester in order to make that happen. Will says, with the WWE in Asia, could this be a long play to get talent from there? No, it's a long play to get more money. Danielle says, smash the like button if you haven't already. Carmelina says, it's funny how Judgment Day is trying to recruit Jimmy and Jay. Yeah, it's funny. I like it. Brad suggests timestamps. Even Mike says timestamps. Lots of talk on timestamps so far. Squid prefers the idea of separate videos and shorts. Timestamps would certainly be an easy, quick way to get through. It would reduce my average watch time. And that's the downside of it for me as a creator. One says, shorts. Timestamp seems to be winning, so that might be what we have to do. Certainly works for me. One more thing I want to mention. LA Knight. It wasn't an accident that LA Knight mentioned the 4 major male champions this week on SmackDown. They are testing the water to see whether or not people will be interested in a United States Championship run for LA Knight. What I will say is that the person who is testing the water is LA Knight, because that was ad-libbed. LA Knight is not currently being scripted. He is going out there and just being told, do whatever you want. We have Eric saying timestamps, and then Eric saying probably separate videos are the best for the channel. Spiderboss says, one thing that always happens on Raw is Judgment Day's matches has outside interference. Yeah, they're the NWO. That's their entire shtick. I wouldn't want to ruin their shtick. This leaves us then with, as requested from Daniela, a Raw preview. Raw is going on tonight, and we have seen some new returners. Some pretty big new returners. Nia Jax has returned to attack Rhea Ripley. This has a risk of turning Rhea Ripley face because I guarantee you Nia Jax is going to be getting a whole lot of boos. So what I would expect is more from Nia Jax. I'd imagine Rhea Ripley will be doing the talking, but Nia Jax needs to be established as a legitimate contender. So she's going to get physical, and she's going to get physical fast. We are continuing with Shinsuke Nakamura versus Seth Rollins. Now, of course, Ricochet has been getting involved in this as a way to try and get a rub. Shinsuke Nakamura should be defeating Ricochet handily to basically remind people that he can be considered a threat for Seth Rollins. Giovanni Vinci continues to work with Chad Gable. Now Tommaso Ciampa is involved. When it comes to Gunter, whatever is the guarantee of the better match is what we will see. There are a number of people he wants to work with, a number of people that Triple H has decided for him to work with. The Chad Gable feud went particularly well. It's earning rave reviews. Tommaso Ciampa seems like he might be getting an opportunity. I'd also keep an eye on Bronson Reed. Adam says, Tom, I just wanted to say that how you handle trolls and your reaction is priceless. Appreciate that, mate. Squid says, I agree, separate vids on a daily or every other day seems like the best YouTube model. Ross says, separate videos will be better for you and the channel for your watch time. I enjoy your shorts. Also, Alyssa doesn't like Solo Sikoa. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn are still working to get hold of a rematch for the Tag Team Championships against Damian Priest and Finn Balor. My expectation is that Cody Rhodes will be getting involved in this one, as will Dominic Mysterio. I expect Fastlane to be a 6-man tag match, so I expect to see that building tonight. Further Cody Rhodes and just a further way for him to be involved and making friends. And making plenty of friends. We are seeing the beginning of a friendship between Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark. This does seem to be building towards Tag Team Championships and does unfortunately mean that Shayna Baszler is not going to be challenging for the big one anytime soon. For me, that's a shame. But I do think it's a good spot for Shayna Baszler to be in. She has been left a little bit bereft. And Zoe Stark is a little bit more face at the moment. So I think this is a bit of a move towards a face turn for Shayna Baszler. The Miz will continue to talk LA Knight and John Cena. LA Knight is likely to be there tonight, so I'd expect to see that being quite fun. Becky Lynch is expected to be on Raw and NXT, so she'll be bringing her NXT Championship to try and draw some extra eyes to the product. I don't necessarily think Tiffany Stratton will be featured on Raw, but she may be featured after Raw alongside or against, of course, Becky Lynch. The New Day versus Viking Raiders is taking place in 2 out of 3 falls. This is another move to rebuild the tag division. The Viking Raiders are being built as legitimate contenders to Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, who are likely to regain the championship soon. This is happening alongside the build for the Street Profits, which is happening at the same time. Cody Rhodes versus Dominic Mysterio is going live tonight. I expect a win for Cody Rhodes, but I expect that to be the moment at which Judgment Day get involved, and then Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens get involved as well. And finally, Drew McIntyre will be taking on Jey Uso. Now, this is a difficult one because at the moment, we are heading towards a heel turn for Drew McIntyre, as originally reported by myself, Tom Colohue. That might be what we start with tomorrow as one of our videos going live. Drew McIntyre's heel turn and the slow build towards it. I'm excited for this. I think Drew McIntyre has a lot to offer as a heel, and I'm excited to see him get back to that. For me, it's one of the least exciting things about Monday Night Raw. The other Mike says, Will Ospreay still has no intentions of signing with the WWE? At the moment, no. He's pretty happy working with AEW, but things do change. Spiderball says, funny that Rhea Ripley said the bloodline has fallen, the Judgment Day is trying to convince the Usos. Well, when Roman gets back, he might have something to say about that. Sean says, maybe a celebration for Becky tonight? Could be fun. Adam really wants Solo Sikoa versus Roman Reigns. Ross says, Solo Sikoa is a star, which I agree with. Eric says, I'm fine with Gunter losing to Gable and moving on to better things. A match with Rollins would be spectacular. I agree. I think that's a great idea, and I'd very much like it. Sean says, wasn't Shayna a face against Ronda? Nope. Not by WWE standards. The fans said so. Yes. Gotcha, Callie. Appreciate that. Zane says, so happy to see Tommy Dreamer become Impact Digital Media Champion. Tommy Dreamer, Digital Media. Doesn't make sense. Yes, Sam, I already mentioned Jade. That was about 20 minutes in, if you want to rewind. Brad says, Drew is great as a heel. I'm excited for it. Martin, quite rightly pointed out, timestamps don't work great for the channel. To be honest, algorithm won't lie. JJ says, if Jade doesn't stay in NXT for long, do you see her beating Becky? Yes, I mentioned that a little bit earlier. Spiderboss says, Jey Uso's reaction when Finn Balor told him Rhea is a fan of him was funny. Appreciate that, Martin. You are, of course, an expert in this field as well, having your own channel. So we are 15 minutes in and we've covered all of the news. I'm pretty happy with the news that we got through there. A nice spread of news, chat, etc. We've had 252 views so far. I will break down this news and make a collection of videos going forwards. If they're not particularly well viewed, I may then go into timestamps. I know you guys are excited by that as a prospect. I could well do both, of course, and it would have in fact helped me break down the spoiler warning video if that's what we do. But I think I'll start tomorrow with Drew McIntyre's heel turn, AJ Styles, and plenty more. Of course, on Wednesday, we'll also be going live with our next review. These admittedly not getting too many views right now, but with each successive one, each previous video gets views, and it's good for the search engine. There is also some more things I'm working on. And if you're a member of the Discord, what I'd love to have is your weirdest facts about wrestling. I want to put some of them together. I think it'll be a great video. Until then, and of course until we go live once again, I've been Tom Colohue. You have been fantastic, and I'll see you all very soon.